When most people hear the word pit bull, usually we have a vision of a really aggressive, just vicious dog. Just one of those dogs that you're scared to go nearby because you know it's gonna bite you, or you know it's gonna jump at you or try to chase you or something. Sadly, this is even more supported by the media, and this causes for most people to have stereotypes about pit bulls. I want to go more in depth about this because I want you to know if the dog really is naturally aggressive, or if we as owners have the fault in it and create these horrible creatures who shouldn't be this way. For my first view, I want to look into the stereotypes that the media actually portrays even more and only focuses on the bad side of this breed, pit bulls. For the second topic that I really want to discuss also is the behavior issue, whether we have to do something with the upbringing of this certain dog. And lastly, I also want to emphasize on how these dogs really help the community and can help families, children, elderly, and those who are in need. One way that stereotypes are mostly spread and made are through media. The media, as in news, broadcasting, just articles, they all portray pit bull attacks, and only emphasize on the aggressiveness of the dog. One example was actually posted on Star Tribune by Tom Ford and Joy Powell, called "Pit Bull Kills 7-Year-Old Minneapolis Boy at Home," which was published in 2007. This story was the parents left this child alone with a pit bull who had a past of being violent, but wasn't considered violent because the trespasser went to private property, and it was the trespasser's fault. Well, this dog was chained up afterwards in the basement so he wouldn't hurt anyone else. And the child decided to go down there, and sadly, the pit bull killed the child. When the father got home, he tried grabbing the child to protect it, but the pit bull also attacked the father, making the father have to shoot the pit bull. Now, I'm not saying this is a good thing, but I'm not saying also that they should only focus on the dog. Most of the story in the article was based on the dog. This was a male dog, a pit bull specifically, who had an aggressive history and who actually just acted for no reason. They really did not go into the fact that maybe the owner had something to do with it. Why was the dog chained up instead of having been taken to a sort of educational facility or behavior facility to get taken care of when there's a lot of training there? They didn't specify why the parents left this 7-year-old boy home alone with a dog either. And that way, media just makes these dogs look aggressive and mean, not looking into to really who else also had fault in the accident. For my second one, I also wanted to go into the behavioral part. Do we as owners have to do with how this dog is brought up? One actually researcher named Elvia, who is faculty of veterinary medicine at the University of Padua, did a research called "Quality of Life of the Pet Dog: Influence of the Owner and Characteristics of the Dog," and she did this research in 2007 also. And in this research, the researcher Elvia emphasized how the owner partly has to do with how the dog is raised. If the owner has this dog socialized with people and has this dog also socialized with other dogs, then this dog, pit bull specifically, will grow up to be a nice, loving dog. But if it is secluded, if it is simply tied up to a post in the basement, it's going to come out violent because it doesn't have that security of being among other creatures. Lastly, I wanted to also emphasize how this certain breed, specifically pit bulls, really help the community. Not any other dogs only, but pit bulls. There was an article by a dog rescuer named Natalie Kent, which she called "Dog Rescue Agency Bullish on Pit Bulls," which was published in 2012. And she emphasized how dogs who were rescued and had a violent past had gone through behavioral training and were later released and adopted or used for community services. For example, they would be taken to elderly homes or children's hospitals, and they would help these people become happy and would just play with them. And never in the history did these pit bulls again have a violent history, violent action or attack. And so we must be careful with stereotypes because most of the time they're just based off one single thing, not really the entire thing in a whole. And pit bulls, I just really want to emphasize that they're not naturally violent. Pit bulls are loving animals that can either be by the owner made violent or good loving animal.